This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everybody. This is Frank Gray with Abbey Realty, creator of the Aspire Agent Training System. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects of ever, discovering your personal brand. Let's get right into it. So the agenda for today is quite simple. We're going to talk about why we call this class Discover versus Create. Discover your personal brand as opposed to creating your personal brand. I'm going to talk for a moment about why you should have a brand, or perhaps why you should recognize that you do have a brand and what you can do to direct that brand message in the right direction. We're going to talk about hot topics in brands, some of the questions that I get from agents all the time. I'm going to show you some examples of great brands just to stimulate your own creativity. Then we'll get into specifically how to discover your brand, a very intensive, introspective process that may help you understand yourself better than you have in a very long time. Then finally, once you've identified that brand, you've discovered it, how do you get the word out? And we're going to look at some very normal, typical, proven ways to do that. And then I'm going to share with you some very creative ways to get the word out. So here we go. I talk about discovering a brand because many agents feel like they need to stick their finger in the wind and find out what's happening in the culture or in the industry to figure out what's highly attractive to other people, and then they want to brand themselves as that. Or they'll see a top producing agent who's taken a particular approach to messaging the real estate community, and they think, well, if it worked for that person, then I'll just do that myself. All those things are artificial and they cannot be sustained over time. If your brand message is to be true, authentic, and sustainable, then it must reflect who you really are, your unique contribution to the marketplace. Now, many agents are not really in touch with who they are. And I know that because as I coach agents, and I've coached hundreds and thousands over the years, and I ask them, typically in our initial coaching session, what do you uniquely bring to the marketplace? What makes you special? And the most common answer I get is nothing. I have a boring life. I've never done anything special. I'm not special. Sometimes they don't say it that directly. Sometimes they do. But that is the most common message that I get. I want to say that you are unique, you are special, you do have something to offer that nobody else does. And if you don't believe that yet, stay tuned, because I'm going to walk you through a process before we're done to identify the real you, your unique contribution to the marketplace. Once you identify it, get in touch with it, then you'll be able to channel that message to the appropriate audiences and see your career go places that you never thought. Now, why do you need a brand? First of all, it sets you apart from the competition. There are 40,000 members of the Houston Association of Realtors. 25,000 of those are actual practicing real estate agents. How do you differentiate yourself from the other 24,999? You need to have a brand message and consistently communicate that to the audiences that you want to serve. A brand makes you memorable. It is that purple cow that we often talk about in branding. Kudos to Seth Godin, who came up with the expression. It comes from the concept of, if you're driving down the road, you look over, you see a herd of cows, you're probably just going to keep going and never give it a second thought. But if you look over and you see a purple cow, well, now that's pretty special. You're going to pull over, you're going to get out your phone, you're going to go Facebook Live, you're going to show the world what you've discovered because it's unique, it's incredible. When you have a brand message that truly is distinctive and you're consistent in the messaging of that and creative in the messaging of that brand, it will make you memorable. People will think of your name, but also the associations that you've implanted into their brain that go with your name. It tells prospects what to expect. For example, if you brand yourself as the negotiating ninja, then clients who hire you are going to expect that you are an expert in negotiating. So it helps to set the appropriate expectation about what you're going to deliver in the relationship. It helps you create an emotional bond with your clients. That's because a brand message is going to be highly attractive to some subsets of the marketplace and at the same time repulsive to others. A good brand message always separates those who are attracted to it and those who are not. If you spend any time on YouTube, you'll see some brand messages from realtors. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Some realtors are goofy, some try to be very hip, and some people find those messages attractive. Others find them, I would never work with that agent. So when you create a brand message that is attractive to some subset or subsets of the real estate market, you're going to find that you emotionally bond with those people. And just to use a real simple example, and I'll share this with you a little bit later in this presentation, the Steel Horse Realtor. What in the world is that? Well, you know what a steel horse is if you are a motorcycle enthusiast. People who are into motorcycles are really into them. And a steel horse realtor would be highly attractive to them, not so attractive to people who don't know what it means, and potentially repulsive to those who do know what it means but don't like motorcycles, don't like the association of the people who like motorcycles, that type of thing. But if you're into it, you will be bonded to your clients and they to you emotionally if you have connected over something that is near and dear to their heart, such as a motorcycle enthusiast. It makes it easy for people to refer you. Again, just to stay on that same theme, the Steel Horse Realtor, how easy would it be for somebody in a motorcycle club learning of a real estate need of some other club member to say, hey, you need to call my friend Bob, the Steel Horse Realtor? Just makes it so much more powerful than you need to call my friend Bob, he owns a motorcycle. No, he's an enthusiast like this. He's a raving fan. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, having a brand keeps you focused on who you are. We live in an industry that is full of distractions. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. Because even if we start the year with a business plan, we're going to hear about some guru doing a seminar down at the hotel. Some other agent will tell us some unique strategy that's working for them like gangbusters. And we're so prone to just jump and try this and try that. The truth is, in this industry, all these things work. We're blessed with an abundance of strategies that we can employ to build a highly profitable sales business. But the challenge for most agents is they never stick with one thing long enough to start seeing results. So short-term thinking, we try this, we don't get immediate results, we jump over here, we don't give anything time to actually incubate and produce results. But if you identify a brand message that's truly honest, pure, and authentic, it comes from who you are, you'll find it very easy to be that person because that's who you are, but to be that person consistently over time. And if you consciously identify with that brand message, then it will be very easy for you to say yes to things that support the message and no to sources of business and strategies and gurus and mastermind groups that are headed in a different direction. That's why you need a brand. So there are some hot topics that I just want to address very quickly before we get down into the weeds. What about your brokerage brand? A number of years ago, Keller Williams, in trying to compete with RE/MAX, told their agents that agents don't really need a company brand or a brokerage brand, that every agent is their own brand. And it's understandable why Keller Williams did that. RE/MAX was the biggest, baddest brand on the planet. If you can't compete with that, you have to change the playing field, compete under different rules in a different game. And so they encouraged agents to develop their own brand. And in fact, on many of their agents, even billboards, huge ads, you can't even tell what brokerage they're associated with. It's truly the fine print down in the corner if they put it on there at all. And I want to say that even though that trend has become very commonplace, agents from all brands, even RE/MAX agents who have the brand, often hide it. I've seen RE/MAX billboards that I knew they were a RE/MAX agent because I know them personally, but RE/MAX appeared nowhere on the billboard. Obviously, that's a violation of TREC advertising standards, but I want to say I think it's also a violation of optimum marketing strategies. Your clients know that you're associated with a brokerage. They're savvy enough to know that. And if you don't even put it in your marketing, they're going to wonder what you're trying to hide. So I would encourage you, don't be ashamed of the brand that you're associated with, even if it's Keller Williams or RE/MAX or a smaller independent brokerage like Abbey Realty that's only in the Houston metro market. If you can't be proud of who you're associated with, you're probably associated with the wrong company. I think it's in your best interest to develop your personal brand, discover and develop. That's what we're talking about today. But that is not a replacement for your brokerage brand. Put that up there loud and proud. Don't try to hide it. Don't think that your personal brand is going to trump the brokerage brand to make it insignificant or irrelevant. That's not going to happen. Put them both so they'll know who you are and they'll know who you're associated with. Individual, team, or group. So many agents these days feel like to create significance in the marketplace, they need to describe themselves as a team or a group, Bob Smith team or the Bob Smith group, even if they are an individual agent. They think that just creates a larger persona for them in the marketplace. I understand that. And when Abbey agents tell me that they want to create an alias such as a team or a group name, I fully cooperate and register those names appropriately with TREC. But I'm going to say, in my opinion, it's unnecessary and in some cases counterproductive. If you have a good name, you've built a good reputation for yourself, the best thing that you can do is promote that name, Bob Smith, in the marketplace as opposed to Bob Smith team or Bob Smith group. Why do I say that? Think about the people who've had some association with Bob Smith and had a good experience with him. Now they look up and all of a sudden Bob is presenting himself as a team or as a group. You know what goes through their mind? Well, I really liked Bob, but I guess Bob has gotten so big now that he doesn't have time for me. And if I call Bob, he's probably going to take my call, but then he's going to delegate me off to one of his buyer agents or listing specialists who probably just got out of real estate school. And I don't even know if I'm going to like them, much less if they're even competent. So don't just buy into the group think that you have to market yourself as a team or a group. In my opinion, and you're watching my video, I don't think it's necessary. Now, what about source-specific brands versus a primary brand? In our Aspire Business Planning workshop, I teach that you should have a specific brand message for every group of people that you're targeting. So in your geo farm, which is hopefully your neighborhood, you're marketing yourself as the neighborhood specialist. I live here, I work here, I play here, that type of thing. But in your motorcycle club, you're billing yourself as the Steel Horse Realtor, because they don't care where you live and what your geographic knowledge is in your neighborhood. They just care if you're one of them. So I do believe in source-specific brands. But what I'm going to be talking about in this class is your primary brand, your overall message to the marketplace, because it is possible to identify a brand that has a broader application or reach than just one narrow source of business. So for example, I mentioned earlier the negotiating ninja. Well, that has application to people who live in your geo farm. It has application to people in your motorcycle club. It has application to past clients and customers. So you can be the negotiating ninja as your primary brand, and then create source-specific brands when you are reaching out in your target marketing efforts to specific sources. So it's not either or, in my opinion, it's both and. So I mentioned I would share with you a few examples to inspire your thinking and creativity. Here we go. Matt Beal, Hawaii Life. Take a look at this screenshot from his website. You don't see any houses. You don't see any satisfied customers. You don't see his sign panel in front of a home. You really don't see anything about real estate at all. All that comes through in this message is the lifestyle of living in Hawaii. You see the couple on the trail in the rainforest. It looks incredible, and many people can identify that. Well, to experience that on an ongoing basis, you have to have a house. And who better to help you find that house than somebody who identifies with the lifestyle aspiration that you have? Many years ago, when I was running several offices in Central Florida, my top agent, I asked him a question one day because he always showed up very nicely dressed in a golf shirt, but shorts, never long pants, which was a little out of the ordinary for me. And I asked him, are you ever uncomfortable not wearing business attire, even casual business attire? He said, not at all. He said, I'm not selling houses. I'm selling the Florida lifestyle, the tennis clubs, the golf clubs, the picture perfect weather, the beach. So he said, I'm just being consistent in my messaging. This is why people move to Central Florida, and they see me aspirationally. That's the life that they want to live. Exactly what Matt Beal is doing with Hawaii Life. How about the geeky girls? Again, we're not seeing any images of homes or no direct real estate appeal on this page. Instead, we see a lot of people in their branded t-shirts. Now, if you go to their website and dig deep, you'll see that they have real estate information. In fact, they've got a link to it right there in the middle of their pink navigation bar, real estate. But that's not their primary message. They have taken a personality trait that these two young ladies from North Carolina share, and they have built it into their business. Now, think for a moment. Is being geeky an attractive personality trait? Well, maybe not if you're trying to get a date in high school. But what if you're hiring a real estate professional? Is it attractive to have somebody who's really smart and who is perhaps doing their homework when all the other kids were partying back in school? Absolutely. So these young ladies have taken a personality trait and leveraged it to create an attractive value proposition. And then getting the word out, oh my goodness, they've certainly done so, even with their, well, especially with their branded attire. How about the power of two? These are two young ladies in South Florida, the Jills. Jill's a little bit of an unusual name, and to get two of them together is even more unusual. So they're leveraging that fact, just a unique coincidence of their names, to build their brand. So I'm going to ask you in a few minutes, is there anything unique about your name? Or if you are in a team, about the names of the people in your team, or the names of the people in your team put together into a team name. There are some great possibilities regarding a name, and talk about an authentic brand. It doesn't get more real than that. Creative videos. A number of agents have created their brand, not so much on their name or even a specific verbal message to the marketplace, but because of the quality of their marketing. Let me show you this very creative example of an agent who has built his brand on the quality of the videos that he creates. Let me go back and start at the beginning. Here we go. Okay, I think you get the idea here. What this agent has done, instead of just doing a typical walk through the house video tour, he has videoed all the features of the home very beautifully, but using the motif of kids playing hide and seek to lead you through the home. I suspect if you do something like that, you're going to get a lot more than 75 or 80 views, but maybe 7,000 or 70,000 views on your videos. And I hear the objection going through your mind right now, but Frank, that would be expensive. I'm used to paying an extra $50 to my videographer slash photographer to get a video done. Why, I may have to pay $1,000 for something like this. Why, he's even incorporated a drone video footage. So there's obviously some editing going on and some additional camera work. Let's just say that he spent $1,000 on this. Now, as you can see, this is a multi-million-dollar home in California. But what if it's a more typical $300,000 to $400,000 home in the Houston metro area? Well, that's a $9,000 to $12,000 commission. Would it be worth it to spend $1,000, not just to sell the one property that you're making the video on, but think about how you can leverage that to gain additional listings? You go into a listing conversation, and when the other agents who are sitting at the kitchen table before you are talking about their brochures and hard copy listing flyers, you're going to say, well, let me show you what I do for all my listing clients. And then you play a video like this. You're going to leverage that $9,000 to $12,000 commission many, many times over. So think about what you might do in your marketplace in terms of marketing, something like this or something different that would really create an identity for you, that if you want really cool, awesome, creative home videos, you need to call Bob, because that's what he, or in this case you, are known for. Here's another one, great photography. Now, this is a snapshot of a home that I pulled off of the Houston area MLS. And if you are an agent in this marketplace, you'll know automatically whose photograph this is, whose listing there is. There is a top agent in our area who has built a brand on the quality of photography. You'll see that the concrete patio has been wet down so that it's got a shimmer to it. This is a twilight shot, so we've got lights coming from within the home that create a dramatic effect. Beyond that, this photo looks like it's not just been photoshopped, but absolutely airbrushed. It's hard to imagine that the home in person looks anything like this photograph, and yet it is beautiful. And if you were going in on a listing conversation and could show off a portfolio of photography like this, you're getting the listing. Now, again, what if it costs you twice as much money to get a photographer to go out at twilight and to do the additional time and effort to spray down the driveway and do some Photoshop / airbrushing on the finished product? If it helps you get a dozen active listings, 50 active listings, 100 active listings, and I'm not exaggerating, would it be worth it? So let's just set aside short-term thinking, it's a few extra $100, and let's think long-term. What are the strategies that are going to enable us to build wealth? That's what a marketing brand can do for you. Well, how about this one? Marguerite Giguera, the skydiving agent. I'm not going to play her video for you. I just want you to see how she has taken a hobby and then leveraged that into a brand. If you watch the video, she doesn't do a lot with skydiving, even though she's labeled herself as such, and then she's put it into her logo, the skydiver there. You can see how, to a number of people, first of all, it's very memorable, the skydiving agent. I've never heard of one of those before, but you can see how there are traits of a person who's a skydiver that would be attractive to buyers and sellers. This is somebody who's bold, who's willing to take calculated risks. Calculated is an important word because people don't want you taking risks with their largest physical asset, i.e. their home. But if it's a calculated risk, then you can be highly effective in negotiating, highly effective in your marketing, highly effective in your communication with other agents. You can just let your mind go for a few minutes about perhaps your hobby and what traits are shared by people who enjoy that hobby, and how could it be leveraged to be attractive to buyers and sellers. How about this one, Julian Polarski? You can look him up on YouTube. I'm not going to play the video because really what we're seeing here in terms of a brand message is his name. He's not the skydiving agent. He's not the steel horse realtor. but he has spent some money on creating a logo that communicates what I perceive as a luxury motif. And I'm a huge fan of Fiverr. I've spent a fortune with Fiverr over the years. You can pay somebody $5, $10, $20 to create a logo for you. I doubt it's going to look like this. So particularly if you're working in an upper end market, you may want to pay a little bit more and create a brand just based on your name and a luxury motif logo that's going to be memorable and attractive to people in that marketplace. Well, here we go. Real Estate by Travis. This agent is really not communicating a marketing message that's showing value to buyers and sellers. In other words, he's not communicating what I'm going to do for you. He's just put his name and his contact information out there loud and proud. He's wrapped his truck and he's hauling a trailer behind that truck, which is essentially a rolling billboard. But is that message in itself attractive to buyers and sellers? I think it is, because what it says is if this guy's going to go to these extents to market himself, he's probably going to do something of a similar intensive nature to market my property. He doesn't even have a brand message. His marketing is the message. His marketing is the brand. He's out there. He's going to take your property and put it out there. Here's just a few random samples that I've selected from around the country. The Real Estate Doctor. I knew a agent in Orlando a number of years ago who branded himself the Real Estate Doctor. It was a different person than the one who created this logo. He would show up at international conventions wearing a lab coat and a stethoscope around his neck. And he told me at one point that he had made over $1 million in inbound referrals because of that brand. It really wasn't anything organic to him. You might say it was a little bit artificial. I think he did have a doctorate, but maybe it was in education or something of that nature. But it was memorable, super memorable. He was very consistent year after year in presenting that, and it made him over $1 million. Ask Emilio, your one-stop real estate resource. There's lots of logos out there today that feature rooftops in the real estate industry. I'm not a big fan of it just because it's so common. You'll see that 3 of the 4 examples on this page are using rooftops. But what I like about Emilio's is he's got the little cartoon caricature of himself. It sets it apart a little bit. The sociable agent, hospitable real estate experience. In our industry, when we hear sociable, we're thinking social media. But you can see by the icons here, this agent is just saying, I'm a nice person. I like to eat, drink, and play. You'll find it to be a pleasant experience spending time with me as we go through your real estate transaction. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, the Organic Realty team. I picked that because just a week or 2 ago, I was talking with one of our agents who has come into real estate after an extensive background in landscaping design. This agent's particular specialty was organic landscaping. And as we looked at our new Abbey Realty office and talked about a landscaping plan, he said, I want to do everything organic, nuts and trees, no pesticides, no fertilizers, things that are indigenous to this area. And I thought, you need to brand yourself as the Organic Realtor. Very unique. I've never heard of anyone do it. Organic Realty team is the closest I've gotten. But think about how you could leverage that to a value add to buyers and sellers. It could just be a marketing thing where we always bring a basket of organic apples to the closing table as a celebration. Or it could go beyond that, where the Organic Realtor is going to help buyers with a new landscaping plan that's free of pesticides and fertilizers. Or if the Organic Realtor is representing a seller, perhaps he spruces up the landscaping at his own expense with some organic indigenous plants. So many things that you could do there that would be of value to buyers and sellers. Here's just a few other quickies. The Good News Bob, very memorable. The Steel Horse Realtor. And then I like the one in the bottom right, Brown Harris Stevens. Undoubtedly 3 different people, but they've done a play on their name, kind of like the Jills that we looked at earlier. BHS, they've turned into Bold, Honest, Smart. very memorable, and it's linked inextricably to their names, which makes it easier to find them. All right, so now it's your turn. I've been promising you that I would lead you through a discovery process where you'll be able to get in touch with who you are at a deep level and identify your brand. So here we go. And I'll just read these questions since I don't have the opportunity to give you a hard copy of this survey, but I'm going to encourage you to grab a pen or pencil and a pad of paper. And as I walk through a number of questions, please go ahead and write down your answers as part of this process of getting in touch with the authentic you. So here goes. Is there a group of people that you're passionate about serving? Examples could be seniors, veterans, medical professionals, investors, renters, divorcees, immigrants, college students, people with bad credit, first-time home buyers, first responders, and distressed sellers. You can write down any of these examples or write in another group of people not listed that you are passionate about serving. Do you have any special skills that relate to real estate? Staging, interior design, perhaps you speak a second language. You're an expert on contracts, perhaps you come out of a legal background. You're an appraisal or pricing specialist. You're that negotiating ninja. You have handyman skills, you have technology skills. You're a flipper, an advertising specialist, landscaping, financial analysis, furniture building, credit repair, social media marketing. Just think about what you do extraordinarily well and how that could be leveraged to the advantage of your buyer and seller clients. Write that down. Third, in what ways are you involved with your community? In other words, where do you know people in your local market area? Is it through your church, PTA, Pilates class? Perhaps you're part of an alumni association, Kiwanis, Elks, YMCA, VFW, Chamber of Commerce, Boy Scouts. You volunteer in some organization. You're involved in Toastmasters, a member of Lions Club, Habitat for Humanity. Perhaps you coach Little League, or you're on the HOA board in your neighborhood. Just write down several answers here because most of us, at least for in this industry, we want to be connected to people in a number of different ways. That can help us identify who we are and discover our brand message. Does your name, nickname, or initials suggest any possible brand? And I've given you a couple quick examples here. Mark Smith, the mark of excellence, or Honey Jones for a sweet real estate experience. This doesn't work for everybody, but for some people it can be very powerful. Let's say that your nickname in college was Bulldog Jones. You go by Bulldog today. Could you leverage that into a brand? Absolutely. It lends itself to a logo very quickly, but even a slogan. I'll be a bulldog for your real estate interests, that type of thing. Doesn't work for everybody, but for some, very powerful. Next question. Do you make any special commitments to your clients? Here's some examples. You invest your money up front to put their home in top showing condition. Very few agents do that. That could be a brand message if you do. You'll buy their home if you can't sell it within 90 days. You'll sell their home for free if you can't sell it within 90 days. A little bit less burdensome than the previous one, but still highly attractive to sellers. An easy out satisfaction guarantee. You return all calls within 2 hours. You'll host an open house every weekend until the home sells. You'll do closing at Perry's Steakhouse or some other high-end restaurant. Then let the title company pick up the tab. You provide over-the-top closing gifts. You'll be coming back to take a photo of the family every year, or you're going to make a donation to the charity of choice for the family. Perhaps you make some other commitment that's not mentioned here that really sets you apart from other agents. You're not just doing the normal stuff. You go above and beyond. What is that commitment? Write it down. Next, do you have any special market expertise? In other words, you're a specialist in high-rise condominiums, luxury properties, commercial real estate, custom homes, new construction, waterfront, golf course communities, 55-plus communities, P3 projects, public-private partnerships, townhomes, down payment assistance programs. If you have special expertise related to some aspect of the market, the real estate market, go ahead and write that down. Next, what have you done in your life that you are most proud of? These could be very personal things. You've raised 3 kids. They're all doing fine. You got a college degree, perhaps the first person in your family. You made straight A's your 8th grade year. I did my 6th grade year, never repeated it afterwards. Military service, a graduate degree. You've bounced back from some setback or tragedy. You've run a marathon. You support a local charity at a high level. You're involved in your community giving back. Perhaps you've recovered from bankruptcy or drug or alcohol addiction or an abusive relationship. These are things you don't want to necessarily lead with in your brand. I married a jerk, that kind of thing. But if you can show through the trajectory of your life that you've overcome obstacles and challenges, and here you are, happy, well-adjusted, a contributing member of society, that can be a highly attractive brand message. How do your friends describe you? And this is more of a personality question. In other words, are you kind, driven? Are you a doer? Are you meticulous, compassionate, available, generous, happy, loyal, relentless, optimistic? Do you have a helpful attitude? Just think how your friends or family members who know you best would describe you. That can lend itself to a brand message, the generous realtor, the happy realtor, that type thing. Next, have you had any defining or life-changing experiences? Perhaps you're a cancer survivor, you've been through a divorce, a serious illness, perhaps a flood. Give me 1 second. We're going to pause.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, getting back on track. Had to pause there for just a moment to give my wife the car keys so she can go pick up our daughter. So here we go. Any defining or life-changing experiences? You've been kicked out of school. Well, what's attractive about that? Well, perhaps that was in 10th grade and you got in all kinds of trouble. Might have gone to prison, and yet you had a come to Jesus moment and your life is totally changed. And now you give back more passionately than people who haven't perhaps had it so rough or had so much to overcome. The loss of a child, a car accident, a fire, bankruptcy. Perhaps you've been to war. You've experienced a national disaster and survived it. You climbed Mount Everest. Not everybody has a defining or life-changing experience. But if you have, think perhaps if that lends itself to an attractive brand message. What are your hobbies? Beekeeping, travel, camping, ceramics, car club, cooking, gardening, football, fishing, shooting, painting, sewing, motorcycles, stamp collecting, boating, estate auctions, furniture refinishing, or canning. Again, people are attracted to particular hobbies as a reflection of their personality. And any one of these things can lend itself to serving buyer and seller clients at a high level. Let's just pick one at random. Let's say fishing. Well, what characteristics do fisher people have in common? One, they tend to be sociable. They tend to be well-adjusted. They like the outdoors. They're kind of adventurous. Many of them are involved in give-back organizations to help promote the local fish population, that kind of thing. So you could be making a donation with every sale to this fish population boosting organization. Or maybe if you have a boat, you take your clients on a fishing trip to celebrate the successful real estate transaction. All kinds of things you could do. You could even just take them on water tours. Or perhaps you want to do a direct appeal to other people who love fishing. That could be part of a source brand message if you wanted to get very specific. What did you do professionally before real estate? Were you an accountant, coach, a lawyer, chef, janitor? Oh, don't think that doesn't have a great message. I clean up other people's messes. I had a client one time, they told me after closing that they named their little pool robot after me. You know, the little robot that goes on the bottom of the pool and cleans it up. I said, what in the world? They said, oh yeah, because through the course of the transaction, you cleaned up a lot of people's messes. So we just named our pool cleaner after you. I was very flattered by that, believe it or not. Teacher, pilot, teller, doctor, preacher, oil and gas executive, cashier, painter, manager, landscaper, Uber driver. Any one of these things is going to lend itself to some particular value adds for buyers and sellers. Again, the real estate doctor that we talked about, the preacher, the minister of real estate, all kinds of great, crazy stuff. What are you best known for? Your red hair, wearing hats, previous career, you won an Olympic medal. There's an agent in our marketplace whose slogan is from gold to sold because of his Olympic experience. You have a funny name, you're a bodybuilder, you drive a vintage car. I once knew an agent who built his brand around that. You have a famous relative, you have a unique fashion style. You'll see in the photograph here, that's Marina Boyce, one of our Abbey agents, who bills herself as the lady in the hat, and she's got quite a collection. But what are you best known for? Do you have a reputation among your friends, family, people you went to high school with? Perhaps it lends itself to a brand. What are you passionate about? Your grandkids, your faith, the environment, dogs, politics, education, veterans, animal rescue, building orphanages, eradicating a disease, helping the homeless. Perhaps you're a health and fitness nut. What are you passionate about? Again, your passions reveal who you are at a deep, deep level. It's not so much what you say about yourself, it's what you do, and behavior is the best indicator of reality. So write down what you're passionate about. What awards, certifications, or recognition have you received at any time in your life? Were you the valedictorian of your high school class? Were you Miss Texas? Did you earn a Sigma 6 certification in a previous engineering career? You were in the band, you were an Eagle Scout, you earned a Purple Heart, an All-State Athlete, Salesman of the Year. What was it that you have been publicly recognized for up to this point of your life? Write that down. The Purple Heart Realtor. Well, if that doesn't tug on your heart, I don't know what would. And then finally, is there a slogan, quotation, or scripture that really defines you or inspires you? Just do it, although that one's been taken. Get her done. No excuses. Service before self. Any one of these could be a brand message if it's not already trademarked. But there are some quotations that perhaps inspire you. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Wow, that's lofty. I'm not a product of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. That's a take charge person, a person who takes responsibility for their actions. Highly attractive to buyers and sellers. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. We all know that's a Napoleon Hill quote, has inspired people for 100 years. Perhaps it's a scripture that really encourages you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. If there's a slogan, quotation, or scripture that inspires you, describes you, defines you, go ahead and write it down. So now I'm going to ask you to look back over all 4 pages of the questions that we have explored. Of all your answers, which is the one that most excites you, most describes you, something that you could really get behind emotionally? Because again, if you just think it would be a good brand, but you don't identify emotionally, you won't be able to sustain commitment to that brand over time. Is it really you? Is it something that you want to be known for? Because some of us may have had an experience that perhaps it defined our past, but we don't want it defining our future. Once you've identified that one thing as positive, it's attractive, it's authentically you, I want you to list some ways that you could turn it into a brand. We've explored that as we looked at different examples. The motorcycle enthusiast is going to be the steel horse realtor, that type thing. The negotiating ninja, the organic realtor. Think about the thing that excites you and list some ways that you can turn it into a brand. And I put at the bottom of the slide, let's help each other. If you're watching this in the company of someone else, even if it's a spouse or family member, maybe have a brainstorming session with them and think how you can turn this to your real estate advantage. Now, once you've done that, you're going to want to get the word out. We have to identify, discover who we are, put that into a brand message, but then we have to let the world know that that's who we are. So you'll want to have a logo, a slogan. You'll want to incorporate this message into your personal brochure, into your letter from the heart. That's a 5 to 7 page life story letter that leverages your personal experiences for a business purpose. We have a whole separate class on that. Perhaps do a vehicle wrap, business cards, websites, sign writers, social media, all marketing. In other words, whatever you identify as your brand message, your primary message, you want to be so consistent in sending that message to the general marketplace. And again, you can have source-specific brands within specific sources, but this is your primary brand message. Be consistent, get it out everywhere. Normal ways. There are some not so normal ways as well. That's why our little young man with the trumpet here is upside down. The not so normal. A pictogram, an animated logo, an animated graphic ad, a whiteboard explainer video, a video intro and outro that you use on all your videos, and then create, wear, and sell logo apparel. And I realize I just ran through a number of ideas, perhaps some words and concepts that you've never even heard before. So let me share with you a few examples of what I'm talking about. A pictogram. This agent, John Hesse, has essentially told his life story in images, in pictures. This would be a beautiful counterpoint to a 5 to 7 page letter from the heart. If they want to read all the details, they can. If they just want essentially the Twitter version, they have it here. So you see it starts out with a little paragraph about where he was born and raised, but then a bit about him. He's got a football helmet, a dog, a golf ball, and a ribbon. And each one of those conveys some aspect of his personal life. And then he moves into the business section, what John brings to the table, and he shares about 10 years of expertise. He's sold over $100 million in real estate, but he's telling this story through the little images. Very, very powerful. And even though we fit this onto a screen, the actual pictogram is probably 17 inches long, and it's very narrow. So he probably put these side by side on 11 by 17, had them printed and cut down the middle. Very powerful, unique piece, both in the presentation and in the actual hard copy, how that's presented. The shape is different. An animated logo. So we talked about a normal thing to do is to create a logo with your brand, but now I'm going to suggest that you put it into motion. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Just watch this quick video with me. Here we go. Okay, I think you get the idea. You can Google that one on YouTube, search for it on YouTube, and watch the whole thing. But you just take your logo and then put it into motion. When I talk about a video intro and outro, this could actually be used for either one or both of those. So it leads off your typical consumer education videos, market update videos, but in a very cool way. An animated graphic ad. This is essentially like a cartoon that sends a specific brand message to the marketplace. Let me just show you a quick example of what this looks like. Okay, again, I think you get the message. It's a little cartoon talking about Rahul, who got a promotion, wanted to buy a house. He was confused. Who was he going to work with? When he bought a home, was he actually happy with the one he got? You'll have to watch the rest of his story to find out. But you could take any real estate message that you think would be attractive to your buyer and seller prospects and have that put into an animated graphic ad. Here's probably my favorite of all, the whiteboard explainer video. This is a video that looks like somebody is actually drawing your message on a whiteboard. And because a picture or a moving picture is worth 1,000 words, let me play it for you. You'll see what I mean.
Hello, I'm Arthur, and I buy houses faster than anyone in town. Are you in need of a cash payment for a house in its current condition or circumstances? Do you need to sell quickly? Think that no one would buy your home in its current condition? Or maybe you just don't want to go through the time or hassle by listing it. Don't worry, I will buy it fast. Call me right now. Here's how it works. Call me. Tell me.
Okay, so this entire video is less than a minute long, just 54 seconds. But you can see what a powerful message it is, right to the point. I'll buy your house for cash. And it's very captivating. People are going to find it very hard to turn away from that before they hear the entire message. And then finally, logo apparel. We looked at this earlier when we saw the Geeky Girls. Now, I don't know if anybody actually buys their stuff. It looks like everybody is because they have so many photos on their website. I suspect those are mostly family and friends, and they got the stuff for free. But nevertheless, isn't it a powerful message to say that your brand is so appealing, that you are so appealing that you've got your name or your brand on hats and vests and coats and jackets and t-shirts and shorts and bags, and you offer it for sale on your website? Doesn't matter if anybody ever buys a thing. You've got it available, and it sends a message that, well, even if nobody else thinks it's special, you do. And people will take their emotional and intellectual cues from people who are highly convicted about what they believe. So consider putting it on a t-shirt. Now, if you'll do all of these things, you will be that purple cow that I mentioned earlier, the one that people can't drive past. 24,999 other realtors. But when you're sending out an authentic, creative message, and you do it in some of these creative ways, not so normal ways that we have described, you'll be the purple cow that moves. You're going to be in motion. Now, just little quick explanation here right at the end, because I know some of you are thinking, well, I don't know how to create a whiteboard explainer video, an animated graphic ad, that type of thing. You don't need to, and I don't want you to spend time becoming an expert on the marketing piece. There are people who are already experts who can do that so much quicker and more professionally than you can. As I mentioned earlier, you're likely to find a bunch of them on Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. It's called that because it used to be $5 for most projects. It's quite a bit more than that now. But even if you had to pay $100 or $200 for an animated graphic ad or an explainer video, you can have nice intros and outros, animated logos made for much less than that, $20, $30. It'll just take your marketing to another level and help send that message to the marketplace that you're the purple cow. You don't look like everybody else, act like everybody else. You deliver a higher level of service to the buying and selling public. Ultimately, that is the purpose of a brand, to share who you are in a way that's highly attractive. My name is Frank Gray. I help agents take their business to new levels. If I can ever do anything for you, let me know. I'm here to help. Let's go there together.